Welcome to Honest Whispers Review for Sale. On this video, I'll be reviewing Women of the DC Universe Series 1 Black Canary Bust. Released by DC Direct on November 14th, 2007. Limited edition of 5,000. This bust number is 4,394 out of 5,000. It is approximately 5.5 inches tall. Designed by Adam Hughes and sculpted by John G. Matthews. I'm going to go over 6 different categories to review this. First category is design. Covers the concept, the pose, and the overall look. Concept is Women of the DC Universe. And the pose is really nice. I like this pose a lot. Really captures Black Canary's characteristics and her powers really nicely, especially because she's in the middle of her sonic scream or canary cry. And I do like some nice little details to the pose, like the way she's slightly bent forward or she's leaning forward to put some emphasis into her powers, and her facial expression shows it. You can see how her eyes are tightly shut with their mouth wide open. And I also like the way her hair is flowing back, as if her powers are creating like a windstorm, blowing her hair back. Looks really nice. And the base, although just a simple block, would have no direct connection to Black Canary and would have been a generic base, but the way it's broken up and falling apart kind of gives you a sense that her powers are destroying this block. So that's a nice way to tie it up with the character, even though she's not facing or directing her powers at the base. Now her right arm, though, it's right next to her mouth, as if she's yelling or hollering. I personally never seen that in the comic books, and logic would dictate that her hand would be injured if it's in the way or close to her sonic scream or canary cry. So I would have preferred it if her right arm was like her left arm, straight back and slightly to the side. I think it would have been a much cooler and sexier look overall. But that is more of a preference. Now, I do want to point out some differences between the prototype and the original artwork that this bust is based off of. And here you could see the prototype has fence net stocking, while the finished product has fishnet stockings, which I definitely like more. And it is more accurate to this costume, which is also my favorite Black Canary costume of all time. But the fishnet also is a plus because the way it kind of creates this shadow or shading effect. So it really tends to accentuate her curves, especially when you look at the crevice line of her buttocks. Might be subtle, but due to the fishnet, tends to stand out a little bit more. And I really love how the fishnet creates this dark, bold outline of her legs and butt as well. And the fact that they use real fabric for the fishnet just adds that quality look overall to it. So definitely like that compared to the prototype. And also, if you look at the side, there's the original artwork that this bust is based off of. And does even show you a close-up of the face. And you can see her upper lip is more of a flat line, and her mouth shape overall is more of a rectangular shape. But when you look at the finished product, you can see her upper lip has a nice consistent curve to it, so her mouth has an oval shape rather than a rectangular shape. So I think it just looks more natural, and overall looks better on the bust than it does on the artwork. And finally, you can see here her pinky is sticking out. And here, even though there is a gap between the pinky and her fourth finger, you could see that her pinky, at least from where her palm is, it goes straight up. while here, when you look at her palm and the pinky, it really sticks out. And if I try to do this with my own hand, one, I can't get my pinky out that far, and two, it's very strenuous on the fingers. So definitely glad that they made the change on that. So other than that, I mean, the right arm, it's more of a preference. So that's why I give the design score a perfect 10 out of 10. Next category, sculpting. Covers the details, quality of the sculpt, quality of the mold. And you can see from the top, very nice details to the hair. Perfect balance, not too much, not too little. In other words, they didn't try to sculpt every strand, and it's not oversimplified. And I also like how they added this little hole, because you'll see that the tips are connected. So that's a nice little effect or details to that. Costume, even though simple, a lot of nice details to it. You can see here the collar of her jacket, the nice natural looking wrinkles on her sleeves, especially her shoulder area. The right arm looks even cooler, just the way it's bent just makes it look realistic, where those little creases are, and the back as well, the way the jacket's kind of creased. And the leotard, very nice details, even though it is a simple look and design. But when you take a closer look, there's some natural looking wrinkles just under her breastline or her ribcage area, and also you'll see a seam line going straight down the middle as well, which kind of creates that realistic look of the leotard itself. Even the buttons on the jacket sculpted out, and the back as well, you get some pretty nice wrinkles, natural looking stretch marks or stretch like effects or look of the fabric. But for me, the lower back or upper waist, I feel like there's just too much details and wrinkles. Here, I think less would have been more. So it just looks like a rough surface area as well. But going further down though, you could see like the stretching details right on top of her butt crack. So that has a nice natural looking look to it. Kind of reminds me of a Playboy bunny outfit without the cottontail. And you could see the seam line going straight down the back as well, just like the front. It's a nice added detail to the costume. I personally and honestly would have liked the butt crack a little bit more defined, but as is, has a, I guess, more of a natural and realistic look to it. And the fishnet is done really nicely. There's no like loose threads or anything that's shown. Unlike my Zatanna bust, there was a piece of loose thread just on the top that wasn't tucked in, because it looks like they molded the leg separately, covered it with fishnet, tied it at the ends, and then the ends are covered by the rest of the bust and the base. And the seam line is strategically placed on her inner thighs, so you can't see the messy threads of the fishnet. So very nice look overall. Now as far as the sculpt quality, when you start looking at it up close, or even the mold quality, you'll see a lot of bumps, indented lines, dimples, especially right here on her bangs, rough surface areas. Going over to the top, again, more bumps, rough areas here on the side as well. And it's nothing major, but it just tends to add up when you're looking at it up close. Even right here, part of it looks like it's been chipped off. with some rough, like molded area basically. Back has some couple bumps here as well. Looks like little pimples basically. The right side's actually pretty good overall compared to the rest. But the fact that it's hair, it does tend to blend in any of the flaws that it has. And of course, the further you pull back or look at it from, the harder you'll see those little flaws. Her body is nicely proportioned. Fingers, nice details. But again, when you start looking at it up close, there's some rough areas, little bumps and indented lines. Right here, that gets pretty rough right there. Fourth finger. Looks like part of her fingers got burned or something. Her left hand, similar. When you look at it up close, you can see those bumps right there. Looks like she has warts on her hands. And then the fingers looks kind of like it's melted a bit. Sort of reminds me of a clay figure or clay animation, and I'm starting to think about Gumby and Pokey the more I look at this hand. But again, something you have to look really closely at to see the flaws. Otherwise, looks pretty good from afar. Breast, very nicely sculpted and just really nice and smooth, especially after looking at the hair and the hands. Jackets, nice details, but again, when you look at it closely, just minor little bumps here and there. Not as much as the hair, but you'll definitely see it on the sleeves, especially on this side. I know there's a couple bumps here. Not as noticeable though, but definitely there when you look at it up close. Now the back for me is probably the worst, just because when you look at it really up close, you could see a lot of the little dimples, some bumps, and even the edge right here looks like part of it got cut off. And for the base, because it's supposed to be damaged, any flaws it has blends in really nicely. Just looks like it's part of the damage. You can see the little bump right there, or the little pimple to better describe it. And even back here has a little bump as well, or a dot bump. But again, because it's supposed to be damaged, doesn't look like it has any mistakes or flaws. So originally I was going to give the sculpting score a really high score, like a near perfect 9, but because there's no major flaw, but since there's so many like little flaws, it just tends to add up. And that's why I give the sculpting score still pretty high, 8 out of 10. Next category is colors. Covers the accuracy of the colors, quality of the paint application. And as far as accuracy goes, really can't go wrong with it. Her costume's just really one color, black. But then the paint quality is actually pretty good, because when you look at it up close, they did matte finish on the jacket, and of course rest of her body and hair and everything. But then she has gloss finish to her choker and her strapless leotard, which I wish the Zatanna bust would have had the glossy finish for black panties, but it didn't. And this is a good example of why they should have, because you can see the difference between the jacket and the leotard, especially the way the light reflects off of the two surface areas. So it kind of gives you two distinctive, same color, but two distinctive look to it. So adds a nice look and quality. paint application overall is really great. Everything's symmetrical, not too many like squiggly lines, although the left eye right there just slightly seems off. You could see maybe like the flesh color kind of repainted or on top of it or something. The lips and the teeth, very nicely done. Don't see any bleeding at all. And the collar or the choker, nice consistent curves. The only bleeding I really see on this bust is right here, the flesh color, and that's just on the edge of the front of the leotard, which you could only really see from kind of a top view, because at the front it's harder to tell or see that. And the rest pretty much perfect. Don't see any flaws. Although the back here, when you look at it closely, it looks like there's like a line on their left buttock or left butt cheek. But after closer look, what it looks like is after they did the gloss finish, it looks like somebody, before it dried, touched it, and that's why part of that gloss finish got rubbed off. Although you could only see it from certain angles where the light reflects off that line. So like this angle, can't see it at all. Even back certain angles can't see it. Although when you're directly on top of it, like right here, you can kind of see it. Although it gets harder to see the further you pull back. So it's not too bad, but still it is there. And that's why I give the color score a near perfect 9 out of 10. Next category is packaging. Covers the design, the look, and functionality. And as far as the package design goes, I like the overall look. I like how it's consistent with the other bust from the same product line. As far as the layout goes, the font, the title, the wording, all pretty much similar. The only main difference usually would be maybe the placement of the title. It could be like on the left, top left corner. And then the background color usually is different depending on which character it is. On the back shows the prior release products. You get the original artwork that it's based on here on the left side of the box, or the box's left side. And then on the right, the close-up with some detail about the bust itself. And finally, of course, on the bottom is the UPC sign, and then you get the numbered sticker right there as well. So I like the overall look. Nice 4-color box, pretty sturdy as well. Only thing I would change is probably on the back, rather than having, promoting the other busts, I would have probably do something more individualized to Black Canary, maybe like a bio or and another picture or something of either the bust or the character itself. And also, if I could get any fancy, with the design, I would have done like a gloss finish with the title or the logo, or even like the picture itself, and then the rest matte finish. Otherwise, the packaging looks great, and it's a nice design overall, which is why I give the packaging score a near perfect 9 out of 10. Next category is value. Covers the retail price versus the aftermarket price, basically whether if it's a good investment or not, and of course the price itself versus the quality. Well, when this first came out 13 years ago, forgot the exact retail price, but it was around $40 to $45. So of course with tax and shipping, you're paying close to around $50. Right now, the average price on this is around $60, maybe a little over. The lowest I've seen is at $54.99 plus like $11 shipping, so it'll be a total of $66, not including tax. So don't know how much that would be with tax. The rest I see was like $65, $77, $59.99. So there is some appreciation to this, but not that much. I have it listed for at about $55, so hopefully I could sell it around there to get my money back, really, or make a little profit, not for myself, but perhaps for a charity, or like for a donation. But beyond that, just hoping to get my money back. So it's unfortunate it didn't go up in value, but whatever you pay for it, whether if it's from $50 to $70, the quality you get is definitely worth it, especially if you're a Black Canary fan. But from my experience as a collector, a bust doesn't tend to go up in value compared to a statue, especially a full-size statue. So for 13 years to only go up about $10, $50, really not that good, but still better than average. That's why I give the value score a slightly above average 6 out of 10. Final categories overall accumulates the 5 prior categories: design, sculpting, colors, packaging, and value. And this bust I really like a lot. My favorite Black Canary bust of all time. Not that there's many Black Canary busts at all, but still I like the overall look, the design. Yeah, just even the quality for DC direct quality is pretty good. Just unfortunate it's lacking on the aftermarket value. Would have been nice if this statue or bust was like at least 50% more than its original price. So at around $75 would have been great at least. But still, definitely like the overall look. Love how the fishnet, not just how it looks, but the way they executed it, the way they just made it look right. So, which is hard to do on a small scale figure. So that's why I give the overall score a very high, near perfect 9 out of 10. So to recap: design 10 out of 10, sculpting 8 out of 10, colors 9 out of 10, packaging 9 out of 10, value 6 out of 10, and overall 9 out of 10. Thank you for watching. Until next time, continue reading the King James Version Bible and eat your vitamin C's daily.